Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end out of Bowling Green, has a lot of folks infatuated. Big games in his senior campaign against Penn State, against Texas A&M. We're going to look at the tape. We're going to look at the stats, and we're going to see, John, if the hype is really worth it here on Harold Fannin Jr.
Before we get into the breakdown, I just want to say he possibly had the greatest season ever by a tight end in college football history. Matt, he led the nation and broke the FBS record for tight ends in receiving yards with 1555. Folks, this is a tight end, 1,555 yards receiving. Receptions, 117 receiving yards per game and receptions per game. He was the first tight end in college football history to lead the nation in total receiving yards and total receptions. Matt, I can't say it enough how amazing his season was last year. And my tight end model loved Harold Fannin when I first put him in the numbers back in December. However, since early January, he has been falling down draft boards. Unfortunately, Matt, he has not hit a home run. And if you look, he established 21 Bowling Green program records, and he finished his career in the 68 Ventures Bowl versus Arkansas State, Matt, 213 receiving yards, 17 receptions, which were both single game highs among all players during the bowl season or the CFP. I deliberately watched that game, Matt, just to scout Harold Fannin. He was the first Bowling Green player to ever be named consensus All-American. He won the MAC Conference Vern Smith Leadership Award, which is the league overall MVP. He was the MAC Conference Offensive Player of the Year and first team All-MAC. When I say he was incredible, Matt, that doesn't do justice to what he did on the field. And then you even go back in 2023. He led the nation in receiving yards amongst in the MAC in receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, and catches among tight ends. As a freshman in 2022, he played in 12 games with one start. He had 19 catches for 218 yards and one score. And he led the team with 4 rushing touchdowns, Matt. It was kind of a weird stat. I actually double-checked it on 3 sites. It's like he had 4 rushing touchdowns. In high school, he had played safety and wide receiver, and he also lettered in baseball. But he wasn't heavily recruited, hence why he went to a G5 program and didn't get the scholarship offers at the bigger schools. Matt, I really like this young man. I'm rooting for him to succeed, but I have lots of questions. Matt, do you have any answers for me and the viewers when you broke down the film?
Yeah, let's kind of prime what we're going to look at here with the film first before we get into it. And with Harold Fannin, you're going to see somebody who is athletic. He's speedy. And by the way, his speed and athleticism holds up against his SEC and Big Ten defenses that he plays against. And I think that's one of the reasons folks got so excited is he wasn't just beating up on MAC competition, John. In the big games, he played very well. You're also going to see somebody who's very versatile. He'll do a lot with the ball in his hands after the catch on a screen. We're not going to get into a ton of tape here where we show him lead blocking, but he's a really good lead blocker as well. And I think, John, what we're going to see as we look at this tape here is that potentially the strength of his tape also could be a negative from fantasy purposes. But let's go ahead. Let's look at the Harold Fannin Jr. tape here. And right off the bat, look at that. I mean, he's running a nice drag route there, and he's working the defender after the catch. He's got a little bit of get up, a little bit of shake there. Look how fluidly he's moving across the field here. If we didn't intro this as a tight end, you might think you're looking at a wide receiver here in terms of what he's able to do. Really nice little short post there over the middle of the field. And look, this is Penn State, right? He's continuing well up and after the catch. Look at this. You're going to see this a lot. Oh, look at that hurdle. First and foremost, Look at that hurdle, but you're going to see a lot on the Harold Fannin tape, the shovel passes. By the way, that's him taking a direct snap on that play. So he lined up at quarterback, took a direct snap. The play before that, we saw the shovel pass. Here is the late release, something that you might normally see a halfback do, that late release. And now when we're looking at this play, again, look, short ball. It's a nice slant route. He positions his body well, but again, it's in the short game. You're going to see when you watch Harold Fannin tape, he's not left in to block a ton. It's not because he's an unwilling blocker. It's just because he's such a dangerous weapon, and the Bowling Green offense could not afford to give him up. This play is fantastic. I had to watch it 5 times to figure out who got the ball. It was Harold Fannin, folks. He was playing running back there. Look at this catch.
Nice.
An excellent catch in traffic against Penn State. So again, he's showing the ability to win at all 3 levels of the field. Another fake shovel pass there, he gets the out. He's really reliable as a target. And you could tell with Bowling Green, they were trying to get the most athletic guy on the field the ball as much as they could, right? That was definitely the focus of what they were trying to do. And it's impossible to walk away from the Harold Fannin Jr. tape not super impressed about what you're seeing. What you have to, though, keep in mind here is, John, we talked about it. He won after the catch a lot. He's a pretty willing blocker. He is, we had an example there of him releasing well from that halfback type position. The direct snap was something that came up more than just what we saw in these examples here, right? He's a smart blocker. He picks up on assignments well. He's 6'3", 238. And so, John, for me, I'm putting all these pieces together, and I've been burned before, right? The Josiah DeGuaras of them all. So I think you need to sit here and look at Harold Fannin Jr. and consider, is he Josiah DeGuara, who has been a perfectly fine NFL player, but, not for fantasy purposes where he's playing fullback, halfback, kind of split tight end, or the other side of that range is Jonnu Smith. Right? So if you're a Harold Fannin Jr. fan, you're probably looking at Jonnu Smith as somebody who's 6'3", 248. He finished as the tight end 4 in PPR formats last year, right? That's going to be your hope. But that's the range. And it's a scary range to be in. So it's going to be really critical to see who drafts him, where he gets drafted. And so this is somebody who's lower in the rookie big board rankings right now, but could have a huge rise post-draft. But John, we don't need a huge rise because we're already cooking over at the rookie big board. So many resources available right now, including the recently released, now available 2025 Rookie Guide Volume 1 with 108 pages, 78 full profiles, 103 players total with analysis. We have our Devy rankings, Dynasty rankings, the personalized advice in the Discord, all of that available over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. Get in on the action, folks, for as little as $5 a month. The link will be in the episode description. Whether you're watching or whether you're listening, now is the time to support. Get ahead of your league mates. And I promise, if you're enjoying these rookie profiles, John, there is way, way more. We are only scratching the surface of our analysis here in these videos. All right, I got on a bit of a soapbox here with Harold Fannin. He scares me a little bit, John, but I just can't shake him. I'm really interested to see what you do with these numbers.
When I watch Harold Fannin and then I see his size, which you mentioned, my one fear, Matt, is he's a tweener. I like big butts in my tight ends. I'm sorry that is true. And when you are at 238 to 242, you just don't have the big butt. He is athletic enough, but if you're undersized at the position at the NFL, Matt, I would have preferred a little bit more athleticism because he ran a 4.71 in the 40 at the combine, which is a nice score, but it's not like, oh my God, he's so uber athletic, which limits him as is he a wide receiver? I don't think so. His 3-cone drill is nice, 6.97, and his 20-yard shuttle, 4.39. So there is clearly athleticism there, but he's undersized, which makes me wonder, what is his fantasy ceiling? I don't think he's going to be on the field, Matt, 60 plays a game. He's just not. So there's a cap on his upside. I'm really rooting for this young man, and he is going to be a better NFL player than fantasy player. I really believe that in 12 formations at the goal line, you can put Harold Fannin on the field. You can use him in specialty, right? If you have an injury at a wide receiver, he can fill in for, a half for you. The model loves him, Matt. He was my number 2 tight end on December 15th. 180 career receptions. Unbelievable. 13.3 yards per catch. That exceeds my benchmark for a tight end. He's better than some receivers in this draft, Matt. Catch percentage. Without great quarterbacks, he had a 75%. This aerial dominator is silly. 49% of the air passing yards went through Harold Fannin, and his receiving yards per team pass attempt 3.71. Matt, the model loves him. I like the tape. He's a very interesting NFL player. But for our fantasy fans, Matt, what do you think his ceiling and realistic value is?
Well, that's the big question here with Harold Fannin, right? You can really like him, but if you're drafting him, you have to like the value. That's the key. And I do expect Harold Fannin to go on day 3. I think that the lack of clear role, like we've alluded to, John, and the fact that he did well at the combine, but he didn't crush the combine, right? And I think that's going to leave these question marks in the head of NFL evaluators, right? Didn't crush the combine, lower level competition. You have to have the right role for him on your team. Again, day 3 early. It's not terrible draft capital, but I do think that's where he's going to go. But I think the allure, the upside, the excitement, the fact that, John, you're not the only one. At the start of this draft process, a lot of folks were talking about Harold Fannin, top 3 tight end, right? I think that's still lingering out there, at least to the point where he can be a mid and will be, a mid-third round pick in super flex leagues. That's too high for me. I'm willing to take a risk on him if he's in the right landing spot, but I want that risk to be mid to late 4th round. I feel better about
fair. Yes, yeah. That's fair.
Like let's take the risk, folks, because he's exciting and he's fun, and you should draft fun players. This is fantasy, right? But do it in the right spot. And waiting around, this is rookie profile number 27. We've talked about at least a half dozen good targets in the mid-3rd round that I would like more than Harold Fannin there. But I do think he has upside. And I do think he's somebody who, you put on your bench, and then as things kind of, injuries happen throughout the season, you need to slide somebody into your flex spot week 10. I do think Harold Fannin could have that type of impact. I just don't think he's going to be carrying it necessarily like Jonnu Smith, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, right? But I'll tell you who will be carrying it, John. We're going to be carrying your fantasy teams forward over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard with rankings, with personalized advice, with the 108-page rookie guide, all available now with the FF Educator and the Gridiron Scholar. Class is going to be in session all draft season long. And John, we have one more rookie profile coming your way real soon.